people claim these modern, active, mid-price basses can do it all. But can they really? I'm gonna battle the two most popular basses in this class, the Yamaha TRBX304 and the Ibanez SR300E. No sponsors, no affiliates, no BS. Let's find out which of these two basses is better, and should you even buy a versatile bass like this, or are you better off with something more classic? We're gonna go straight into some back-to-back tone shootouts. Both basses were set up, given fresh strings, recorded direct with minimal processing. Let's hit it. These basses definitely sound different, even with the settings matched. I hear more trebly, high-end stuff on the Ibanez. The Yamaha's basic tone is more mellow. They speak differently in the mid-range too. The Ibanez has a pretty distinct bite to it, like rawr, rawr. The Yamaha sounds more neutral and round. I've heard some people call it polite, which is kind of a dig, but it's not necessarily good or bad. Do these differences make either one universally better or worse? At this point, I'd say no. I can see a case for either bass, and I'll discuss that more at the end. But you can't tell which one is better by the sound alone. They also feel really different to play, have different features, different build quality, so let's check that out. In a lot of ways, these basses are similar, notably three things. One, they both have slim 24-fret bolt-on necks, which are lovely to fly around on for chords and soloing. Two, they've got dual humbucking pickups with active EQ, so you have a lot of tone options. And third, both of these basses are accused of having a super skinny neck compared to a Fender-style bass. They're definitely thinner in this dimension, but they actually have the same nut width as a Fender. There may be a very slight difference in string spacing, but we're talking like 1 millimeter, so getting to the notes isn't much different. But these basses do have quite a few differences. Here are 5 of them. Number 1, cable jack style. I personally don't like this Stratocaster style jack on the Ibanez. I normally use right angle cables, so this is just like messing up my whole cable game because it won't fit in there. But the Yamaha has a nice solid metal plate mounted cable jack on the side, so kudos there. Number 2, weight. The Ibanez only weighs 7.5 pounds, which feels a lot lighter than the Yamaha's 8.8. But they're both still super manageable compared to something like my Squier Jazz bass, which weighs a painful 9.7 pounds. Number 3, a couple weird bits around playability. The Yamaha has this pickup cutaway thing, which I just don't love. It's a cute idea, but if you're used to playing any other bass, it's kind of disorienting. And the Ibanez has this weird angled end of the fingerboard, which I've kind of gotten used to, but when I was first slapping on this bass, I was like banging my thumb against it. Number 4, build quality. It's hard to get good data on this, but the word on the street seems to be that Yamaha has better quality control than Ibanez, meaning you're less likely to get a lemon. And that rumor is supported by my personal experience. Both of these basses came fully functional, pretty well set up, but the Ibanez G-string nut slot was cut too low. And they used a super cheapo battery connector compared to the super slick connector in the Yamaha. And the Yamaha had no issues that I'm aware of. This isn't a huge issue if you buy somewhere where returns are easy, but keep this in mind if you're buying used and try before you buy. And 5, EQ. The Ibanez has a 3-band active EQ, bass, mid, and treble. The Yamaha has 2-band, just bass and treble, but no mids. Having a mid knob adds a lot of tonal flexibility, live and in the studio, so Ibanez wins on that front. The other big difference between these two is the Yamaha has the performance EQ switch, and the Ibanez has the power tap switch, which brings us to the battle of the gimmick switches. Our contenders in the battle of the gimmick switches. The Yamaha 5-way performance EQ versus the Ibanez 3-way power tap. First up, the Yamaha exclusive performance EQ active circuit with 5 performance-tuned full-spectrum EQ curves is optimized to give instant access to essential sounds. So here are the EQ curves you get in each mode. I don't like to get too nasty in these review videos, but what the f, Yamaha? Like, why would the solo setting roll off all the high end? Nobody ever. Bass solo time, better make my tones super muddy and roll off everything over 8K. Yamaha, don't worry, we got you. I seriously have no idea how they landed on these curves. Like, I get how there's the mid scoop on the slap and the pick, and that gives you some traditional sounds, but they're also not even volume balanced. Like, here's flat. And here's slap mode, it's way louder. So you can't really flick this switch mid-song without driving your sound engineer completely insane. Not only would I totally rewrite all of these curves if I could pick 5 EQ presets to have on hand, I'd also just rather do this job with a basic EQ pedal. They're pretty cheap and way more flexible. Next, the Ibanez Power Tap. Tap mode creates a punchy dynamic sound with superior articulation. Series mode delivers a full, warm tone, and Power Tap mode provides the best of both worlds, combining the clarity of the single coil with the fat bottom end of the humbucker. So this switch really does significantly change the sound of the bass from single coil to humbucking to power tap mode. It's still not great for on-the-fly changes because the level changes a lot from single coil to humbucking, but it could work if you changed on like a per gig basis rather than a per song basis, or if you use like a boost or EQ pedal to balance it out. To me, the Ibanez Power Tap is way cooler than the Yamaha Performance EQ, because Power Tap actually changes the raw sound coming out of your pickups, and that's more powerful because it's something that you can't replicate anywhere else in your signal path. Unlike an EQ curve, which could be applied by a pedal or in post-production, with way more flexibility to customize the sound you actually need. So the winner of the gimmick switch wars is unquestionably the Ibanez. Would I rather have a simple active-passive switch than either of these gimmicks? Yes, I would. But if I had to pick one, it would definitely be the Power Tap. So yes, these basses give you a lot of tonal options. You've got 2 pickups, active EQ, and a gimmick switch of your choice. But do they actually deliver the classic bass tones that most of us are looking for? Or is it like a big menu full of nothing you want to eat?
I didn't want anything without spamming it.
There are a bunch of classic bass tones we could try to get out of these things, but if you've ever listened to any music, chances are you were probably listening to either a Fender Precision or a Fender Jazz bass on that recording. Those Fender tones are so baked into our consciousness that when we hear a bass tone that isn't that, we think of it as like weird or quirky or modern. So let's just see if we can get that sound from these 2 basses, and I'll use whatever settings I thought got closest. type of pickups has a big impact on how a bass sounds. A Fender Jazz or Squier Jazz, for example, has 2 single coil pickups. So I thought that because the Ibanez can run single coil mode using the power tap switch, that it would get closer than the Yamaha to the Fender-y sounds, but it was actually further off because of pickup placement. If you look at all 3 basses lined up, you can see the pickups are further down and closer to the bridge on the Yamaha, and even more so on the Ibanez. That changes what the pickup hears, shifting the sound more towards mids and treble. So my opinion, these basses don't sound bad, but they can't replicate that classic Fender sound, which I think is due primarily to type of pickups and pickup placement. I thought the Yamaha got closer to those tones than the Ibanez, again largely because the pickups are in a more Fender-y position. Good news! Neither of these basses suck. So if you already own one, you're in good hands. They're totally solid for learning on, jamming, and even some basic gigging. This is the part where I tell you which one I think is better. And I gotta say, if a student of my Beginner to Badass course asked, I'd probably say Yamaha, and just break off the performance EQ switch. The rounder, mellower tone is kind of a safer starting point. It's a lot harder to get bad sounds out of this bass. That said, I do still like the Ibanez. I kind of like how aggressive it can sound, and it would be much better than the Yamaha for cutting through a wall of distorted guitars or getting that kind of modern metal, dark, glassy sound. Also, I think the Ibanez is way sexier. It's got like smooth, flowing curves, a bunch of really cool paint jobs. The Yamaha just kind of looks like a weird 90s sci-fi movie bass.
I need a Sinologic 60.
A Yamaha TRBX304.
So why would you choose one of these basses over a more classic style bass in the same price range, like a Squier Jazz bass? Versatility is the name of the game. The TRBX or SR style gives you more tone options, and they also allow you to play more versatilely because you have more frets and better upper neck access for soloing in chords. You can do all that stuff on a Fender, you just have to work around more limitations. But there's a big downside to that versatility if you're trying to recreate classic tones exactly. Almost no recordings have these basses on them. I can't find any examples of famous pros who use these exact basses, so Fender-style will just naturally get you closer to classic. So if you're starting out and you only want one bass, these are a great way to get started and experience different worlds of tone. But if you get more serious about nailing the exact right tone for every gig, you'll want to acquire the exact right tools for the job.